Joining me now, it is a part of our MU Healthcare Friday night or Thursdays ahead of the Saturday morning clinics that run from 9 to 10 o'clock over at the Missouri Orthopedic Institute. That's a free clinic, by the way, and you ought to check that out, especially if you've got a kid who's going to be playing football on Friday night. Brett Hayes joining us now. So, all right. You've done this before,
yes,
but this time we're a lot more focused than the last time that we've been, because a lot of times we talk about hydration and rehab and all the rest of that stuff. This time it's concussions, and I found it either interesting or serendipitous or however you want to use this. But the NFL today announcing that they're putting up a $1 million prize in a new contest to develop a safer helmet. They're also offering $2 million in grants to help entrants build prototypes.
Wow.
Let's start with the idea of a concussion-proof helmet. Is there such a thing?
We looked back over the years of helmets and helmet technologies, and what it comes down to in a concussion, it's use the word deceleration of the brain in the skull that causes a concussion. So whether you got a helmet on or not, if you hit the ground hard enough and you bounce, or you have a ricochet effect or a whiplash effect, you're still going to get a concussion. No helmet can prevent that. However, you can't put it past new technologies these days, and things have gotten out of control as far as how much work I wouldn't say out of control, actually. It's a good thing. But knowing what the technologies are out there for a lot of different conditions, I think we're onto something here. It's about time we took the old Noxay-based helmet technology and threw it up on its end. I just hope it's not a response to Antonio Brown. He doesn't deserve that.
Okay, well, no, he doesn't, because I mean he's a clown car, a fully loaded one, all on its own. But out with that, I didn't realize, and I knew, I guess thinking back on it now, about 5 years ago or so, that the NFL had said there's going to be a day coming that things are going to change. The old helmets aren't going to be approved. Here it is. So they have a list of 30 approved helmets. How much safer are the new generation of helmets compared to 5 years ago?
I think it's negligible, to be honest with you. Okay. I think they're obviously more evolved and everything. I think what's evolved more in the NFL versus the technology in the helmets, it's the rules. I think we are actually seeing a definite change in how we address these vicious hits, which, I'm from that generation as well. As a former football player myself, we used to love those, but we realize you don't need to have them to make a clean tackle.
Did you stand over them? You make that big right over and flex.
Yeah, heck, I used to wear 56 like Lawrence Taylor, so I really thought that was a big thing back in then. And I'm ashamed of myself, to be honest with you, especially as a clinical practitioner now who diagnoses them. But I do like looking back and realize, we've come a long way. I mean, say what you want about all the lawsuits and everything. I believe the NFL is making an effort, whether it's forced or not. They're making an effort, and we're seeing a change in the rules, and I think it's having an effect positively.
Okay, and a lot of that stuff starts down in Pop Warner, and then moves to the junior high and JV, and then high school, and then college, and then the NFL does this. So, as your clinical experience takes you through, how important is it for somebody who's getting involved in football to get that baseline concussion testing done?
It's crucial. Granted, that's evolving as well.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of our baseline testing has gotten more advanced and better as time goes on, to where we still don't have 100% agreement on what's the best baseline test. But regardless, something that gives us a starting point where we know where a child is from their own cognitive functioning to compare if a head injury is suspected is crucial, because otherwise we really don't know if we're dealing with a true baseline or not, and the person could be complaining of symptoms that really don't necessarily imply a concussion, but we don't know unless we can have a comparative. So it's really important, I think. And I'd love to see us doing that more standardized in all physicals, which we're working on actually at MOI. I think we got a program for next year. Okay,
Brett Hayes with us. He is over at the University of Missouri, the Missouri Orthopedic Institute. By the way, get over there on Saturday mornings at from 9 to 10. It's a free clinic, and they can walk you through some of the things. They've got x-rays over there. They also have the ability to make those referrals. So when you're working your way through this, and we talk about practices, and you talk about the way hits have changed, everything seems to be going closer and closer to making everything as safe as possible for the athlete. But yet, I walk out there and I see at times and I'll see it in the high school as they're getting ready to play, and all. They've got the waffle,
yes,
cushioning,
the waffle cushioning,
the waffle cushion on top of the helmet. What significance is that, and why?
Well, there is a little more deceleration that's going to happen when you pad up.
Okay.
There's no doubt. That's just physics. However, I think it's definitely a sign that there's an awareness. For one, we're taking it seriously. Two, and when you're wearing something like that, you know there's a sense that there is a certain amount of protection and I don't want to say an awareness that where you back off on a hit, but you're going to know, wow, I'm wearing extra padding to protect myself. I better be taking this more and more seriously. But make no mistake, as much as we're seeing that happen, there's still a lot of it that hasn't trickled down. And there are some schools out there that, and attitudes even from smaller areas and coaches that just still are from the old school that we haven't gotten through to yet. So this is going to take some time for us to really get things going, but we're on a really good path. And clinically, we're even treating them better than we ever used to. And so that's helping us.
Do you run clinics for coaches on, okay, this is how you need to be coaching the hits, and especially this is what you need to be watching for?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We actually do a lot through strength conditioning. We focus a lot on neck strength. That's a big idea because really, if you really want to get technical, per participant, women's soccer gets more concussions than football does. And it has more to do with just that loss of that inability to decelerate your head with your neck strength. So we work a lot on that with all coaches across the board. In football, we talk a lot about just making sure their peripheral vision and awareness is big. And so you coach your players, make sure you're looking for the hit that you don't know is coming. And we actually at our Performance Institute train all our athletes to use visual motor training. In other words, visual tracking, and we have this thing we call the fit lights, where they actually have to react to lights that flash in the periphery of their vision.
Okay.
So they're good at that because let's face it, kids, they're staring at a 3-inch computer screen, which is their phone, all day long, and they're losing their peripheral visual field. And so we're working on trying to get that even better through all across it. And if you teach the coaches these things, it's not rocket science. It's all about awareness, strength, and making sure you're safe out there when you're playing. That's what there's to it.
So we've gone through all that. Now let's, Johnny takes the hit on Friday night, and on Saturday all he wants to do is sleep in and not get to the clinic, and mom's a little bit worried about it. What's that progress through as a parent? You're watching your kid, and they took that hit on Friday night, or they took that hit Wednesday afternoon in practice. What are you looking for as a parent?
Well, first off, if in doubt, you check it out.
Okay.
You don't you are the greatest tool that this child has for awareness of if they have a concussion. Because to be honest with you, those of you like myself, we've experienced concussion. You don't really know you've experienced it yourself. Okay. You may have signs and symptoms, but you're not really aware of it because the very thing that makes you aware of a concussion has been knocked out. And so a lot of times it is your parent that says, why are you acting irrational? Why are you acting? Why are you sleeping so much? Why can't you read? Is something wrong with your vision? And those are the things we look at even more than symptoms such as headache. We look at vision. We look at them complaining, I'm seeing dots or spots, or my eyes are swirling out in the periphery. I'm seeing colors. Things such as that. But that was another great point there, George. Like, are you sleeping so much? I mean, that's tough, right? Because a teenager going to sleep a lot anyhow.
Yeah, I know.
But, when it comes to it, you have to it's like, wait a minute, they've been down for a long time. And when they wake up, is it impossible to get them up to arousal, that type of thing? But it's still tricky. That's why I say, if in doubt, check it out. And that's engagement in the sport. If you're watching your child play and you see them take a vicious hit, whether they pop up or not, that should be a little bit of a flag for you there. I mean, granted, maybe nothing happened, but if a behavior follows something you witnessed, don't be the over-parenting parent, but keep your eyes open and ask questions.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily always the first one. It could be the second one that causes the real damage.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have gotten much better at that, what we call secondary impact syndrome.
Yeah, okay.
But I actually lost a college teammate to secondary impact syndrome. So it's affected my life personally. And when I went through that and understanding what we were looking at, man, boy, it raised my awareness. And that was back in 1990, so we are getting much, much better at that. I think you're seeing the incidence of that secondary impact syndrome greatly decreasing because we're just not messing around anymore. You just... Even the kid themselves, if they're having a week full of headaches and nausea, they're saying something or people are noticing it and a red flag's coming up. So our education's working. Yeah,
well, and I was going to ask you, as you're doing that, I was thinking about the stigma. There's a whole other topic shoot that we can branch off, but we don't have time for that. But the stigma of concussion, the stigma of bringing that up and going, man, coach, I just don't feel right.
Yeah.
I feel off. Right. Has that become less because, football, manly sport, man, you don't want to be putting your skirt on out there?
It has become less. I think, I'm going to say less. That's all I can tell you. It's definitely not there. But the awareness, let's face it, a good liability in a lawsuit is going to wake you up and make you pay attention, because we always try to encourage. It's tough in healthcare, but when we work with our coaches, we try to beg them, coach, just coach football. Don't even delve into the medical part of it. If you have any question or kids bringing it up to you, don't default to the toughness issue. Default to the athletic trainer, which you need to have on your staff. Yeah. Get them there, check them out. If the trainer clears them, then you can address the toughness issue. But that's the key. That's the key. Just if in doubt, check it out.
Yeah, Brett Hayes with us is the director of the MU Healthcare Physical Therapy Services. As I'm going to circle back to the helmet here as our time is winding down. But helmet fit, peripheral vision, all of that. How much of that? And I understand Missouri is a much higher end program than Hallsville is,
right?
But the same principles apply. So if you're a parent and your kid's getting fitted for that helmet, what are some of the things that you're looking for?
Well, you want to look for that, like you talked about, that fit. The cheek bones that we call it, the cheek pads, they've got to fit flush right to the cheeks. That doesn't mean pressure and squeezing, but if they're loose in any way, that helmet's going to have some wobble. That means your head's going to have some wobble. So you're checking that medial and lateral rotation as well as the head up and down. If the helmet goes way too down below the nose or above it, you got too loose of a helmet. That's that free space in the helmet there. Secondarily, it's tough for a parent, but sometimes you want to inspect the inside of the helmet yourself. Does the inner part of the gear look like it's worn or tattered? Does the pad feel like it's soft? I love to think that we have a great check and balance system in any high school and any level, but that doesn't mean you can't be cautious and double check that type of thing, and see what's going on there. Same, a helmet that rides too high or too low. Those are all things that you can say. I think if you're close enough to the game, you can tell when a helmet isn't fitting right, but at the end of the day, if you're even suspecting anything's not right with that, you're really not being a pain in the butt to talk to the coach or the administrator, say, hey, is this helmet really fitting? I don't know if I condone the idea of going rogue and buying your kid a different helmet that's off the rack and everything, because sometimes that sets a weird precedent of, well, then the school has a liability and this and that.
Yeah, but they don't.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to be smart about what you're saying. But I'm very interested in this new technology development and looking at what can we do better about helmets. Unfortunately, that means they get more expensive.
Right.
And so can these high schools afford that? Well, those would be great in the NFL and it'd be great at the Division I college, but then what? Yeah. And so I'm waiting to see with some serious interest on that.
And remember that chin strap is your safety belt.
Oh, you bet it is.
It keeps your melon in the car.
It drives me crazy how many times you see those things fall off on a field and you can tell they're not secured right. And that's on the player. We got to, and no matter how pretty you got to be, you got to get that chin strap down.
You're not going to look very pretty when you've got stitches all the way across your chin, because you got to lay that thing open. I had a caller in the first hour, and I told him I would ask you this question. A lot of shoulder issues, and like Tyreek Hill with the sternoclavicular dislocation. Shoulder pads.
Yeah.
As the technology has improved, the shoulder pads have gotten thinner, and now you're starting to see more and more with the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, more shoulder injuries.
Yes. Correlation equal causation, that whole trip of...
That's the line I'm going with.
We don't know yet, but I think it's a valid question.
Okay.
And honestly, let's face it, if the numbers are going up, I know where we're at. We're trying to reduce the weight, the lightness, the speed. We want the athlete to have a better reaching for those balls, but where's the trade-off if you're getting such a thin amount of plastic and yet the guys aren't getting any smaller, they're getting bigger. And if you're a quarterback and a big guy comes down on you and you're on your side, you're going to fracture that clavicle. I'd rather have a little more plastic there. That's just me. But then again, I know we have the technology to have toughness of fibers and lightness. So maybe it's just a matter of us. We need to tweak it.
Okay.
We need to keep working on that research and technology.
All right. That is Brett Hayes. He is, again, the director of the MU Healthcare Physical Therapy Services. Brett, I thank you for the time, man. I appreciate
George,
it.
Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem at all. Concussions is such a huge issue. And Brett earlier mentioned it. When in doubt, check it out. We've talked about that a lot. Please remember to do that. When in doubt, check it out. The best place to do that is on a Saturday morning at 9 to 10 o'clock, Missouri Orthopedic Institute. It's a free clinic. Get on out there, and it doesn't matter whether it's a concussion or whatever. Get out there. But a concussion, please, parents, make sure you take care of your kid as you become their best advocate in an injury like that. Brett, thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I hope you have a really quiet rest of the week.
I'm hoping for it myself.
You can join the conversation anytime. Call 442-8255. The Closers on KFRU and KLIK.